Hello, this is the BBC News with Fiona MacDonald. Hurricane Ian has struck the Gulf Coast of Florida, bringing powerful winds, severe flooding and a huge storm surge. The US National Hurricane Center says it made landfall near Cayo Costa as a Category 4 storm. Pictures on social media showed churning water submerging roads and sweeping away vehicles in coastal towns. Forecasters have warned of a catastrophic storm surge up to 5 metres high. The National Hurricane Centre's acting director, Jamie Rome, described the intensity of the hurricane and warned people in the worst hit areas not to leave home.
The eye wall and the extreme winds of a major hurricane are about to move onshore. So if you're in this little box area, so this is Cape Coral, Boca Grande, Sanibel, you need to get into the interior of your home and begin to brace for a period of sustained, damaging, potentially devastating winds.
The United States has announced another $1.1 billion package of military aid for Ukraine. The funding is for contracts with suppliers rather than immediate delivery from US stockpiles. Here's President Biden's spokeswoman, Karine Jean-Pierre.
This includes 18 new high-mobility artillery rocket system and also known as HIMARS, which Ukraine has used so effectively on the battlefield. It also includes hundreds of armored vehicles, radars, and counter-drone systems. We will not be deterred from supporting Ukraine. We will continue to stand with the Ukrainian people and provide them with the security assistance they need to defend themselves for as long as it takes.
The government in Nicaragua has ordered the European Union ambassador to leave the country days after the EU demanded that President Daniel Ortega restore democracy and free political prisoners. Nicholas Rocha reports.
President Ortega has come under fire from the EU and the US for his persecution of political opponents and independent media since a wave of anti-government protests in 2018. They were met with a violent police response which left at least 300 people dead. Dozens of journalists, as well as opposition politicians, have since been detained or forced into exile. Last week, CNN was banned from broadcasting its Spanish-language services in the country.
The Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi has accused protesters of misusing the death of Mahsa Amini to cause riots. As protests continued for a 12th day, Mr Raisi said the death of the young woman while in the custody of the morality police had saddened everyone and was being investigated. But he said that endangering people's lives was a red line for Iran. World News from the BBC. The Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni says there's no need to quarantine Ebola hotspots in the country because the disease is not airborne. The BBC's senior Africa correspondent Anne Soy reports.
Markets, schools and places of worship will continue to operate normally, said President Museveni. But he urged people to avoid touching their eyes, nose and mouth, to stop shaking hands and to wash them frequently. President Museveni also said a second treatment facility is being set up at the epicenter of the outbreak and mobile laboratories will be sent there by Friday. He said his government was also exploring all options to get a safe and effective vaccine. It is not the first time Uganda is battling Ebola, and that is giving the government confidence that the latest outbreak can be contained.
Official campaigning has started in Nigeria for the presidential election in February that will replace Muhammadu Buhari, who's completing his second and final term. It's expected to be a tight race. The governing APC is fielding the former governor of Lagos, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, whose unofficial campaign slogan is "It's my turn." He's facing an anti-establishment backlash among many voters disillusioned with the problems besetting Nigeria. The British Prime Minister said she will stand by her Chancellor, Kwasi Kwarteng, despite the negative reaction to last week's mini-budget. The Bank of England has had to intervene in the bond market to try to tackle what it called the significant volatility that's followed Mr Kwarteng's statement. The pound has depreciated and the cost of government borrowing has risen. The makers of a drug designed to slow the progress of Alzheimer's disease says it has shown positive results in a late-phase clinical trial. The drug, lecanemab, is designed to remove clumps of toxic proteins that build up in the brains of people with Alzheimer's. BBC News.